Hey guys, welcome to Historical Mysteries. Today, we're jumping into a wild puzzle that'll grab your attention. Scientists just found DNA in ancient bones that shows a mysterious group of people lived in the Americas thousands of years ago. And here's the crazy part, they're not related to Native Americans at all. Who were these people? Where did they come from? How did they end up here? This discovery flips everything we thought we knew about the first people in the Americas. We're going to dig into the clues, explore some wild theories, and try to figure out the truth behind this uncharted mystery. So, stick around for an exciting ride through history. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and let's get started with this mind-blowing story. The visuals will show dramatic music, quick shots of ancient ruins, a cool DNA helix spinning, and mysterious landscapes to pull you right in. Okay, guys, let's kick things off with the moment that turned history upside down. Picture this, scientists are digging in some remote spots in the Americas, places like deep caves, dusty burial sites, and ancient riverbeds. They're looking for clues about the past, maybe expecting to find tools or bones from early Native American groups. But what they found was way bigger than that. They uncovered human remains, really old ones, we're talking thousands of years old. When they ran DNA tests on these bones, the results were shocking. These people, they weren't related to any known Native American groups. Not even close. This was a whole new group of people no one knew about. Can you imagine how wild that must have felt? It's like finding a puzzle piece that doesn't fit the picture you've been working on for years. So, where exactly did this happen? These discoveries popped up in some pretty cool places across the Americas. One big spot was in Alaska, where the cold, icy ground preserved bones better than almost anywhere else. Scientists found remains in places like the Upward Sun River site, tucked away in the Alaskan wilderness. Then, way down in South America, they found more clues in places like Monte Verde in Chile, a site so old it's been messing with historians' heads for decades. There were also finds in places like Mexico and even some caves in Brazil, where ancient skeletons were hidden under layers of rock and dirt. Each site was like a time capsule, holding secrets from a world we didn't even know existed. These weren't just random bones either, they were carefully buried in some cases, with tools or beads nearby, like these people wanted to leave something behind. Why does this matter so much? Well, think about it. For a long time, we thought we had a pretty clear idea of who the first people in the Americas were. Most history books say Native Americans' ancestors came over from Asia, probably crossing a land bridge called Beringia during the Ice Age. That's been the main story for years. But now, these new bones are throwing a wrench in that. If these people aren't related to Native Americans, who were they? Were they here before, after, or at the same time? This discovery is like opening a brand new chapter in the history book, one that makes us rethink everything. It's not just about some old bones, it's about realizing there might have been whole groups of people living here, with their own stories, their own lives, and we're only just now finding out about them. Let's take a second to picture what this must have been like for the scientists. You're in a cave, it's cold, you're brushing dirt off a skeleton that hasn't seen daylight in 10,000 years. You send it to a lab, expecting it to match what you already know. Then the results come back, and it's like, wait, what? This doesn't match anything. Imagine finding bones that don't fit any group we know about. What would you think? Would you be excited, confused, maybe even a little freaked out? It's like stumbling across a mystery with no easy answers. That's what makes this so cool. It's not just science, it's a real-life detective story. The DNA tests were the game changer here. Scientists used fancy tech to pull tiny bits of genetic material from these bones. They compared it to the DNA of modern Native Americans and other groups around the world. Normally, you'd expect some kind of match, even a distant one. But with these remains, it was like hitting a brick wall. The genetic markers were totally different, pointing to a group that doesn't seem to have any direct descendants. Today, it's almost like these people vanished from the family tree. That alone is enough to make you wonder, what happened to them? Were they a small group that didn't survive? Or were they part of something much bigger? These finds also tell us how hard it is to uncover the past. Bones this old don't just sit around waiting to be found. They're buried deep, sometimes crushed or scattered, and it takes years of careful work to piece them together. In Alaska, for example, the team had to deal with freezing weather and tricky terrain just to get to the site. In South America, some of the caves were so remote they had to hike for days with all their gear. And once they found the bones, they had to handle them like they were made of glass, because one wrong move could destroy evidence. That's been preserved for millennia. It's slow, tough work, but it's worth it when you get results like this. This discovery isn't just about the bones themselves, it's about what they mean for the bigger picture. If there were people here who weren't related to Native Americans, it raises all kinds of questions. Did they arrive earlier than we thought? Did they come from somewhere totally unexpected, like across the Pacific or even from Europe? Or were they just a small, isolated group that didn't leave a big mark? Every answer leads to more questions, and that's what makes this mystery so exciting. It's like we've been reading a book about the Americas, and someone just handed us a whole new chapter we didn't know was missing. So, to wrap up this part, this discovery is a big deal because it challenges what we thought we knew. These ancient remains, found in places like Alaska and South America, show us there were people here we didn't know about. Their DNA doesn't match Native Americans, and that's got everyone scratching their heads. It's a clue that could rewrite the story of the Americas, and we're just getting started. Stick with us, because next we're going to dive into who these people might have been and where they came from. For now, think about this: what would it feel like to uncover a secret this big? The visuals here will show maps of the Americas with glowing dots for each dig site. Footage of scientists brushing dirt off bones, and simple interviews where they explain the shock of the DNA results. Let's keep going and crack this mystery wide open. Alright, guys, let's dive deeper into this wild mystery. In Chapter 1, we talked about how scientists found ancient bones in the Americas that don't match Native American DNA. Now, we're going to figure out who these people might have been. This is where things get really exciting because we're piecing together clues like detectives, trying to solve a puzzle that's thousands of years old. We'll look at the DNA evidence, explore where these people could have come from, and imagine what their journey might have been like. Ready? Let's go. First, let's talk about the DNA evidence, because that's the heart of this mystery. Scientists didn't just look at these bones and guess, they used high-tech tools to pull tiny bits of DNA from them. DNA is like a code that tells us who someone's related to, kind of like a family tree written in your cells. When they tested the DNA from these ancient remains, they expected it to match up with Native American groups, since that's who we thought lived in the Americas back then. But here's the shocker: it didn't match. These people had unique genetic markers, which are like special tags in their DNA that make them different. These tags weren't found in any known Native American populations, past or present. It's like finding a book in a library that's written in a language no one's ever seen before. That's how big this is, it's proof these people were a completely separate group. So, how do scientists even get DNA from bones this old? It's not easy. These remains are super fragile, sometimes just crumbling bits of bone buried in dirt for 10,000 years or more. They have to be super careful, working in clean labs so they don't mix in modern DNA by accident. They grind up tiny pieces of the bone, extract the DNA, and then use machines to read it. When they compared this DNA to databases of other groups, like modern Native Americans, Asians, or Europeans, it didn't fit anywhere. Some markers were totally unique, suggesting these people didn't share a close family tie with anyone we know about today. It's like they're a missing branch on the human family tree, and that's what makes this so crazy. Now, the big question, who were these people? If they're not related to Native Americans, where did they come from? This is where we get to play explorer and imagine their story. Scientists have a few ideas, and they're all pretty wild. One theory is that they came from Asia, but not the same way Native Americans' ancestors did. Most Native Americans are thought to have crossed a land bridge called Beringia, which connected Siberia to Alaska during the Ice Age when sea levels were lower. Maybe these mysterious people took a different route, or came at a different time. Could they have been an earlier wave of travelers who got to the Americas before the main groups? Or maybe they were a small, isolated bunch who split off from others in Asia and ended up here. Another idea is even more out there. What if they came from Europe? Yeah, it sounds nuts, but some scientists think it's possible. There's a theory called the Solutrean hypothesis that says ancient Europeans might have crossed the Atlantic Ocean by following the edge of sea ice in small boats. This would have been super dangerous, but possible if they were skilled hunters chasing seals or fish. The DNA from these bones doesn't perfectly match modern Europeans, but some markers hint at distant connections to groups in Europe from way back. It's not a slam dunk idea, and a lot of scientists argue about it, but it's exciting to think about. Picture a group of people bundled up in furs, paddling across icy waters to a brand new land. Could they have been that brave, or maybe just that desperate? Then there's another possibility. What if they came from somewhere totally unexpected, like across the Pacific Ocean? Some researchers think early people might have sailed from places like Australia or Polynesia, hopping from island to island until they hit the Americas. This would have taken serious skills, because the Pacific is huge and storms can be brutal. But we know ancient people were amazing navigators. Think about how Polynesians sailed thousands of miles using just the stars and waves. Could these mysterious people have been ocean explorers who landed on the coasts of South America? The DNA doesn't give us a clear answer, but it leaves the door open for ideas like this. Let's take a moment to picture their journey, because this is where the story gets real. Imagine a group of people sailing across dangerous waters to a new land. They're in small boats, maybe made of animal skins or wood, rocking in the waves. The wind's howling, the water's freezing, and they don't know what's ahead. Were they explorers looking for new hunting grounds? Or were they lost travelers, blown off course by a storm and just trying to survive? Maybe they were families, with kids and elders, hoping to find a safe place to call home. What would it feel like to step onto a shore no one from your world had ever seen before? Would you be scared, excited, or both? This is why history is so cool. It's not just facts, it's real people with real stories. Each theory about their origins comes with clues, but also big gaps. For the Asia theory, we know people were moving around during the Ice Age, but why would this group's DNA be so different? For the Europe idea, the DNA hints at some connection, but crossing the Atlantic that long ago seems like a stretch. And the Pacific theory is awesome, but we don't have solid proof of boats that old reaching the Americas. That's what makes this a mystery. Every answer leads to more questions. The DNA tells us these people existed, but it's like they left us a note with half the words missing. To figure this out, scientists also look at other clues, like the tools found near the bones. Some of these tools, like stone spear points, look different from what Native American ancestors used. In places like Monte Verde in Chile, they found weirdly shaped tools that don't match the usual styles. Could these be a hint about where these people came from? Maybe they brought their own way of making things, learned in a far-off land. Or maybe they invented new tools to survive in the Americas' wild landscapes. Either way, it's another piece of the puzzle that keeps us guessing. Another thing to think about is timing. When did these people get here? Some of the bones are super old, like 12,000 or 13,000 years old, which puts them in the same ballpark as the earliest known Native American ancestors. Were they here at the same time, living side by side? Or did they come earlier, maybe even beating everyone else to the Americas? If they were earlier, it could mean humans got here way before we thought, which would rewrite history big time. But if they were later, why don't we see their DNA in modern people? It's like they showed up, lived for a while, and then vanished. Let's wrap this up by thinking about what this all means. The DNA evidence proves these people were real, with unique markers that set them apart. They could have come from Asia, Europe, or even across the Pacific, but we don't know for sure. Each idea paints a picture of brave, or maybe desperate, people crossing huge distances to reach a new world. Picture this again, a small group, standing on a rocky shore, staring at a land full of giant animals and endless forests. What were they thinking? Were they hoping for a fresh start, or just trying to make it through another day? That's the magic of this mystery, it pulls us into their world. For visuals, we'll show animations of ancient migrations, with little boats bobbing on stormy seas or people trekking across icy land bridges. We'll throw in some DNA charts, but keep them simple, like colorful lines showing how this group doesn't connect to others. Ocean scenes will make you feel the wind and waves, pulling you into their journey. Next, we'll explore what their life was like, how they survived, what they ate, and what their world looked like. Stick with us, because this story's just getting started. Alright, guys, we're diving into the next big piece of this mystery. What was life like for these mysterious people who lived in the Americas thousands of years ago? We've already talked about how their DNA shocked scientists and where they might have come from. Now, let's step into their world. Imagine a time with no cities, no roads, no phones, just you, your family, and the wild. What did these people do every day? How did they survive? We'll look at the clues from tools, artifacts, and burial sites, try to figure out if they were hunters, farmers, or nomads, and wonder why we don't know more about them. Let's jump in and explore their daily life. So, what do we know about these people? Since we don't have written records or photos, we have to rely on what they left behind, stuff like tools, bones, and burial sites. These are like little snapshots of their lives, giving us hints about who they were. For example, at some of the dig sites, like Monte Verde in Chile or the Upward Sun River in Alaska, scientists found stone tools. These weren't just random rocks, they were carefully shaped into sharp points for spears or knives. That tells us these people knew how to work with stone, which takes skill. They probably used these tools to hunt animals or cut up food. Some tools were so well made, it's like they had their own style, different from what Native American groups used. It's almost like they had their own brand, you know. They also left behind other cool stuff. In some places, scientists found bits of rope or nets made from plant fibers. That's a big deal because it shows they knew how to twist plants into something strong enough to catch fish or carry stuff. In one site, they even found wooden stakes that might have been part of a shelter or a trap for animals. These artifacts tell us they were smart, figuring out how to use what was around them to make life easier. It's like they were the original DIY experts, building what they needed from scratch. Burial sites give us even more clues, and they're kind of emotional to think about. In some spots, like in Alaska, they found the bones of a young child buried with care. The child was laid out with tools and beads, like the family wanted to send them off with love. That shows these people had feelings, traditions, maybe even beliefs about what happens after someone dies. It makes them feel real, not just some old bones in a museum. Other burial sites had adults with weapons or jewelry, like they were buried with things that mattered to them. It's a window into their world, showing they had a culture, even if we don't fully understand it yet. Now, were these people hunters, farmers, or nomads? This is where we have to piece things together like a puzzle. The tools, like spear points, scream hunters. Back then, the Americas were full of big animals, think giant sloths, mammoths, or huge bison. If these people were hunting those, they were brave. They'd need to work as a team, tracking animals for days, then taking them down with just stone-tipped spears. That's not easy. They probably ate the meat, used the hides for clothes or shelters, and even made tools from the bones. Hunting was likely a big part of their life, especially in colder places like Alaska where plants were harder to find. But were they only hunters? Maybe not. At sites like Monte Verde, scientists found traces of plants, like wild potatoes or seaweed, mixed in with the artifacts. That suggests they were gathering food from the land, maybe even cooking it. Could they have been farmers? Probably not full-time farmers like we think of today, with fields and crops. Farming didn't really start in the Americas until much later. But they might have been part-time plant experts, knowing which berries, roots, or nuts were safe to eat. Imagine walking through a forest, picking fruit, and knowing exactly what's good and what's poison. That's some serious skill. As for nomads, it's a safe bet they moved around a lot. The Americas back then were wild, no roads, no towns, just endless forests, plains, and mountains. The tools and bones we found are scattered across huge areas, which makes it likely they didn't stay in one place forever. Maybe they followed animals as they migrated, or moved to find better fishing spots or plants. Picture a small group packing up their stuff, tools, hides, maybe some kids on their backs, and trekking to a new spot by a river. They'd set up camp, maybe build a shelter from branches or animal skins, and start over. That kind of life takes guts and smarts. What would it be like to live in a world like that? No cities, no stores, just you and the wild. You'd wake up to the sound of birds or wind, not an alarm clock. Your day might start with checking traps for fish or sharpening a spear for a hunt. If you're a kid, maybe you're learning to make a fire or weave a basket. Every day is about survival, but it's also about family, working together to make it through. It sounds tough, but there's something awesome about it. Right? Living so close to nature, knowing the land like the back of your hand. Let's explore their daily life and imagine what it felt like to be them. Now, here's the frustrating part: why don't we have more evidence? These people lived thousands of years ago, so it's no surprise a lot of their stuff is gone. Wood, cloth, Or food rots away over time, especially in wet places like forests or coasts. Even bones can break down if they're not in the right conditions, like frozen ground or dry caves. That's why finds in Alaska or Chile are so special. The cold or dry climate preserve things better. But in other places, we might be missing tons of clues just because they didn't survive. It's like trying to read a book with half the pages torn out. Another reason we don't know more is that these people might have been a small group. If they didn't have big villages, or leave behind huge piles of stuff, they're harder to find. Maybe they were spread out, living in tiny camps of just a few families. Or maybe their culture disappeared, and we don't know why yet. Did they die out? Did they mix with other groups? It's a big question we'll tackle later, but for now, it's why this mystery feels so slippery. Every clue we find is precious, but there's so much we're still missing. Let's think about their culture a bit more. The burial sites make it seem like they cared about their people, maybe even had ceremonies. Did they tell stories around a fire at night? Did they sing or dance? We don't have proof, but it's fun to imagine. Their tools show they were creative, figuring out how to survive in a tough world. Maybe they had leaders or healers, people who knew the best hunting spots or which plants could fix a wound. Every little artifact, like a carved bead or a sharpened stone, is a hint they had a way of life that meant something to them. One cool thing to picture is how they dealt with the world around them. The Americas back then were like a different planet, full of giant animals, huge forests, and wide open plains. If they were in Alaska, they faced freezing winters and short summers. In South America, they might have dealt with jungles or deserts. Wherever they were, they had to be tough and smart. Imagine sitting by a fire, hearing wolves howl in the distance, knowing you've got to keep your family safe. That's the kind of life they lived, and it's amazing they made it work. To wrap this up, we know these people were skilled and resourceful. Their tools show they hunted and gathered. Their burials hint at traditions, and their scattered finds suggest they were nomads. But we're left with big gaps. Why so little evidence? Did their culture vanish? It's like they're whispering to us through the artifacts, but we can't hear the whole story. For visuals, we'll show reenactments of their life, people making tools, hunting, or sitting by a fire. Close-ups of artifacts, like a sharp spear point or a woven net, will bring it to life. Wilderness shots of forests, plains, and icy mountains will make you feel their world. Next, we'll dig into why they might have disappeared. Stick with us, this mystery's getting juicier. Alright, guys, we're at the part of this mystery that's both exciting and a little sad. We've learned about the mysterious people who lived in the Americas thousands of years ago, their unique DNA, where they might have come from, and how they lived. But here's the big question: why did they disappear? One day, they're hunting, building shelters, and burying their loved ones with care. Then, poof, they're gone, leaving barely a trace. What could wipe out an entire group of people? Let's look at the evidence, explore some theories like climate change, conflicts, or disease, and guess what happened. We'll also compare them to other lost groups to see if we can crack this puzzle. Ready? Let's dive in. First, let's think about why we even know they vanished. The biggest clue is the DNA. Remember how we said their genetic markers are super unique, not matching Native Americans or anyone else today? Well, here's the kicker. Those markers don't show up in later populations either. If these people had kids who mixed with other groups, you'd expect to see bits of their DNA in modern people or later ancient remains. But we don't. It's like their family line just stops. That suggests they didn't survive long as a group, or at least not in a way that left a big mark. It's a huge hint. But it's also frustrating because it doesn't tell us why they're gone. So, what could have happened? One big theory is climate change. Back then, the world was wild and the weather was changing fast. About 12,000 to 10,000 years ago, the Ice Age was ending. The giant ice sheets that covered parts of the Americas were melting, and the land was transforming. In places like Alaska, where some of these bones were found, the winters were brutal, but as the planet warmed, the animals they hunted, like mammoths or giant bison, started to disappear. If these people relied on those animals for food, clothes, or tools, losing them would have been a disaster. Imagine you're a hunter, and one day the herds you've always followed are just gone. What do you do? You might try to find new food, but that's not easy when the whole world around you is changing. Climate change didn't just affect animals, it changed the land itself. Rising sea levels could have flooded coastal areas where these people lived, like along the shores of South America. Forests turned into grasslands, or dry plains turned into deserts. If they were nomads, moving from place to place, they might have struggled to find new spots with enough food or water. Picture a family packing up their camp, only to find the next valley is too dry to live in. Over time, that kind of stress could wear a small group down, especially if they didn't have big numbers to begin with. It's not hard to see how a changing world could have made survival impossible. Another theory is conflict with other groups. The Americas weren't empty back then. Other people, like the ancestors of Native Americans, were already here or arriving around the same time. What if these mysterious people ran into them? Maybe they competed for the same hunting grounds or fishing spots. If one group was bigger or had better weapons, things could have gotten ugly. We don't have direct proof of battles, no skeletons with arrow wounds or smashed skulls, but we know humans have fought over resources forever. Imagine two groups meeting by a river, both needing the fish to survive. If they couldn't share, it might have led to fights. A small group like these mysterious people could have been pushed out or worse, wiped out. Then there's the idea of disease. This one's tough because we can't test ancient bones for every sickness, but it's a real possibility. If these people were isolated, they might not have been exposed to many diseases before. Then, if they met another group, say, new arrivals from Asia or elsewhere, they could have caught something their bodies couldn't handle. Think about how a cold can spread through a school today. Now imagine a new disease hitting a small group with no doctors, no medicine, just their own knowledge of plants or healing. A bad illness could have taken out whole families fast. Even today, we see how diseases can hit small, isolated communities hard. Back then, it would have been even worse. Another big question is, did they blend with other groups, or did they die out completely? Blending is possible. Maybe they married into other groups, and their kids became part of a bigger population. But the DNA evidence makes this tricky. If they mixed, you'd expect to see some of their unique markers in later people, but we don't. That leans toward the idea that they died out instead. Maybe they were too small a group to keep going, or maybe a mix of climate change, conflict, and disease was just too much. It's sad to think about, but small groups can disappear fast if things go wrong. Let's compare this to other lost groups to get a better picture. Think about the Clovis people, another early group in the Americas known for their spear points. They were around at a similar time, about 13,000 years ago, and then their tools just stopped showing up. Some think they died out because the animals they hunted went extinct. Others think They changed their way of life and blended into new groups. It's a bit like our mysterious people, lots of questions. Not enough answers. Or look at the Anasazi, a later group in the southwest who built amazing cliff dwellings and then vanished around 1300 AD. Droughts and fights might have driven them away. These stories show it's not unusual for groups to disappear, especially when the world around them gets tough. What could wipe out an entire group of people? Let's look at the evidence and guess what happened. The lack of DNA in later populations is our biggest clue. They didn't leave descendants, so something stopped them. Climate change could have messed up their food supply, forcing them to starve or move to places they couldn't survive. Conflict with other groups might have pushed them out of good lands or worse. Disease could have hit fast, especially if they were a small group with no immunity. Or maybe it was all three, a perfect storm of bad luck. Picture a small camp of people, maybe just a few families, facing a world that's getting hotter, animals that are disappearing, and strangers who don't want to share. It's easy to see how they could have faded away. But let's imagine their final days for a second. Maybe they knew things were getting bad. The hunters come back empty-handed because the animals are gone. The kids are hungry, and the elders are worried. They might have tried to move, packing up their tools and heading for a new spot, only to find it's no better. Or maybe they fought to protect their home, standing their ground against another group. Or picture a sickness spreading through the camp, with no way to stop it. It's heartbreaking to think about, but it makes their story feel so human. These weren't just bones, they were people with hopes, fears, and lives. We also have to wonder, why didn't they leave more behind? If they were nomads, they might not have built big villages or left huge piles of stuff. Their shelters could have been made of wood or hides, which rot away over time. Their tools were small and scattered, easy to miss unless you're digging in just the right spot. It's like they were ghosts, slipping through history without leaving a loud footprint. That's part of what makes this mystery so gripping. We're chasing shadows, trying to catch a glimpse of who they were. To wrap this up, we don't know exactly why these people vanished, but we've got some solid guesses. Climate change could have taken away their food and changed their world. Conflict with others might have pushed them out. Disease could have hit hard and fast. The DNA tells us they didn't blend much, if at all, so they likely died out. Comparing them to groups like the Clovis or Anasazi shows this kind of thing happened before. Small groups can disappear when times get tough. This part of the story leaves us with more questions than answers, but that's what keeps us hooked. For visuals, we'll show dramatic weather animations, storms, floods, or drying rivers. Battle reenactments will bring the conflict idea to life, with people facing off in a tense standoff. Fading village scenes will show empty camps, like their world is slowly disappearing. Next, we'll look at what this all means for history. Stick with us, this mystery's still unfolding. Alright, guys, we've reached the final big piece of this incredible mystery. We've explored the shocking DNA discovery of a mysterious group in the Americas, who they might have been, how they lived, and why they vanished. Now, let's zoom out and talk about what this all means for history. This isn't just about some old bones, it's about rewriting the story of the Americas and asking what else we might have missed. Could there be more undiscovered groups out there? What will future DNA tests uncover? Are there clues hiding in plain sight? This discovery proves history still has secrets, so let's dive in and figure out what's next. What do you think we'll find? Let's go. First, let's talk about the big picture. This discovery changes everything we thought we knew about the Americas. History. For years, the main story was pretty straightforward. about 15,000 years ago, people crossed a land bridge. From Asia to Alaska, spread across the Americas, and became the ancestors of Native Americans. It was a clean, simple timeline, and most evidence backed it up. But now, these ancient bones with unique DNA throw a curveball. If these people weren't related to Native Americans, it means the Americas were home to more groups than we thought. Maybe they were here at the same time, living side by side. Or maybe they came earlier, beating everyone else to the punch. Either way, the history we learned in school just got a lot messier, and way more exciting. Think about what this means. The Americas weren't just a blank slate waiting for one group to show up. They might have been a busy place, with different people arriving from different places, each with their own tools, traditions, and stories. It's like finding out your neighborhood has a whole secret history you never knew about. This makes us rethink everything. When did humans first get here? How many waves of people came? Were they friends, rivals, or strangers? It's not just a small update to the history books, it's like adding a whole new chapter we didn't know was missing. Now, here's a mind-blowing question: could there be more undiscovered groups out there? If we found these people by accident, what else is waiting to be dug up? The Americas are huge. Think about all the forests, deserts, mountains, and coasts. There are places archaeologists haven't even touched yet, like deep jungles in South America or underwater caves off the coast. During the Ice Age, sea levels were lower, so a lot of ancient campsites might be underwater now, hidden under oceans or lakes. Imagine a team diving into the Pacific and finding tools or bones that tell another story. It's totally possible there are more groups we haven't found, each with their own mysteries. This discovery also makes us wonder about the clues we already have. Are we missing something in plain sight? For example, some old tools or bones we thought belonged to Native American ancestors might actually come from these mysterious people, or someone else entirely. Scientists are going back to museums, retesting old finds with new DNA tech, and finding surprises. It's like reopening a cold case and realizing the evidence was there all along, just waiting for the right tools to make sense of it. Maybe there's a skeleton in a storage room right now that could blow this mystery wide open. Let's talk about the future, because this is where things get really cool. What else might DNA uncover? DNA tech is getting better every year. Back in the day, scientists could barely get anything from old bones, but now they can pull tiny bits of genetic material from stuff that's been buried for 20,000 years. They're also learning how to compare DNA to huge databases, finding connections we couldn't see before. In the next few years, we might find more bones with weird DNA, or maybe we'll spot traces of these mysterious people in other groups we didn't expect. It's like having a superpower to peek into the past, and every new test could rewrite history again. But DNA isn't the only tool. Archaeologists are using drones, satellites, and even lasers to scan the ground for hidden sites. In places like the Amazon, they've found ancient roads and villages under thick jungle, stuff no one saw for centuries. Imagine using that tech in Alaska or Chile, where these bones were found. We could uncover whole campsites, maybe even tools or art that tell us more about these people. Every new dig is a chance to find something that changes the game. It's like we're on the edge of a treasure hunt, and the next clue could be anywhere. This also makes us think about how we tell history. For a long time, we've focused on big stories, like the land bridge migration, because they fit the evidence we had. But now we're learning history is more complicated, full of small groups with their own paths. These mysterious people might have been a tiny band, but their story matters. It shows us how diverse the past was, how many different people shaped the world we live in. It's a reminder to keep an open mind, because the past is full of surprises. Let's take a second to get excited about this. This discovery proves history still has secrets. It's not a closed book, there's always more to find. Think about it, 50 years ago, we didn't have the tech to pull DNA from bones like this. Who knows what we'll have 50 years from now? Maybe we'll find a way to read even older DNA, or uncover whole cities we didn't know existed. Every time we dig, we're rolling the dice, hoping for a new clue. What do you think we'll find next? Another group with weird DNA? A lost village under the sea? Or maybe something we can't even imagine yet? This also makes history feel alive. These weren't just names in a textbook, they were real people, walking the same land we do, facing crazy challenges. Their DNA tells us they existed, but their story is still fuzzy. It's up to us to keep digging, keep asking questions, and keep telling their tale. That's what makes history so awesome. It's not just about the past, it's about connecting to people who lived thousands of years ago. Imagine if they knew we'd be talking about them today. Would they be proud, surprised, or just glad we remembered them? Let's think about the bigger world for a minute. This discovery isn't just about the Americas. It's part of a global story about how humans spread across the planet. Every continent has mysteries like this, lost groups, weird artifacts. Questions we can't answer yet. In Europe, they've found ancient bones with DNA that doesn't match anyone today. In Australia, there are tools so old they challenge when we think humans got there. It's like the whole world is a giant puzzle, and every new find helps us see a little more of the picture. The Americas are just one piece, but they're a big one. To wrap this up, this discovery shakes up our understanding of the Americas' history. It shows us there were more people here than we thought, living their own lives, leaving their own marks. It opens the door to more undiscovered groups, maybe hidden in jungles or under the sea. Future DNA tests and new tech could uncover even crazier secrets, and we might be missing clues right under our noses. This is why history is so thrilling. Every bone, every tool, could change everything we know. For visuals, we'll show timeline graphics, sliding from the Ice Age to today, with glowing dots for each big find. Future excavation predictions will zoom in on jungles or oceans, hinting at what's next. Simple scientist quotes, like, "This changes everything," will drive it home. Stick with us for the conclusion, where we'll tie this all together and ask what's next for this mystery. Alright, guys, we've reached the end of this wild journey, and what a ride it's been. We've dug deep into one of the coolest mysteries ever, DNA revealing a lost group of people who lived in the Americas thousands of years ago, completely unrelated to Native Americans. Let's wrap this up by summing up the story, sharing some final thoughts on why this matters, and inviting you to join us for more adventures. This is why history is so exciting, so let's tie it all together and keep the conversation going. Let's start with a quick recap to bring it all home. This whole mystery kicked off when scientists found ancient bones in places like Alaska and South America. They ran DNA tests, expecting to find a connection to Native Americans. But instead, they got a huge surprise. These people had unique genetic markers, showing they were a totally separate group, not related to any known native populations. It's like finding a hidden chapter in a book you thought you knew by heart. We explored who they might have been, maybe travelers from Asia, Europe, or even across the Pacific, crossing land bridges or sailing dangerous seas. We pictured their lives as hunters and nomads, using stone tools and burying their loved ones with care. Then we tackled the big question of why they vanished, looking at ideas like climate change, conflicts, or disease, since their DNA doesn't show up in later groups. Finally, we talked about how this changes history, opening the door to more undiscovered people and new questions about the Americas' past. This story is huge, it's a puzzle with missing pieces, and every clue we find makes it more exciting. Now, let's step back and think about why this matters. This isn't just about some old bones or a science report. It's about real people who walked the same lands we do, thousands of years ago. They faced crazy challenges, freezing winters, giant animals, a world with no roads or stores. They built tools, made shelters, and cared for their families, just like we do in our own way. But their story was lost for millennia, until now. Finding their DNA is like hearing their voices again, even if it's just a whisper. It reminds us that history is full of surprises, and every bone, every artifact, could change everything we know. That's what makes this so thrilling. It's not just about the past, it's about connecting to people who lived lives as real as ours. This discovery also shows us how much we still don't know. For years, we thought we had the Americas' history figured out, one big migration, one main group of people. But these bones prove it was way more complicated. There could have been all kinds of groups crisscrossing the land, each with their own story. And if we found these people by accident, who else is out there? Maybe there are more bones hidden in a cave or under the ocean, waiting to tell us something new. It's like we're explorers, standing at the edge of a giant map with huge blank spots. Every new find fills in a little more, but there's always another mystery around the corner. Let's talk about what this means for us today. History isn't just a dusty book, it's a living thing. Every time we uncover something like this, it changes how we see the world. It makes us wonder about our own place in the story. These people didn't know we'd be talking about them thousands of years later, but their lives shaped the Americas in ways we're only now starting to understand. It's a reminder that we're all part of something bigger, connected to the past and the future. That's why digging into mysteries like this is so cool. It's not just about facts, it's about feeling that connection across time. Here's another thing to chew on, this discovery shows how far we've come. Just a few decades ago, we didn't have the tech to pull DNA from bones this old. Now, we can read their genetic code like a book, finding clues no one could have dreamed of back then. And who knows what's next? In 10 or 20 years, we might have even better tools. Maybe finding stuff we can't even imagine now. It's like we're in the middle of a golden age for uncovering the past. Every scientist digging in the dirt, every lab running tests, is helping us get closer to the truth. And you're part of that. By watching, asking questions, and keeping the story alive. So, what's the final thought here? This is why history is so exciting. Every bone, every artifact, could flip the script. This mystery started with a few skeletons, but it's grown into something huge, challenging what we thought we knew. And opening doors to new questions. It's a reminder that the past is never fully solved. There's always another clue. Another story, waiting to be found. These people might be gone, but their legacy lives on in the questions they've left us. And that's what keeps us coming back for more, because who knows what we'll uncover next. Now, it's your turn to jump in. If you love this mystery, smash that like button to let us know. Share this video with your friends, maybe they're into history or just love a good story. And drop a comment below, what's your theory about these people? Do you think they were explorers from across the sea? Did they die out because of a big disaster? Or maybe you've got a wild idea we haven't thought of. We read every comment, so let's keep this mystery alive together. And if you want more Uncharted mysteries like this, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, so you don't miss our next adventure. We've got tons of cool stories coming up, and we want you along for the ride. Before we go, let's take one last moment to picture these people. Imagine them standing on a hill, looking out at a world full of forests, rivers, and giant animals. They didn't know their story would reach us, but here we are, talking about them, wondering about their lives. That's the magic of history. It connects us to people we'll never meet but we'll never forget. Thanks for joining us on this journey, guys. You're the best, and we'll see you in the next video for another mystery that'll blow your mind. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and let's uncover the past together. Wow, guys, we've just been on an incredible ride unraveling this amazing mystery, and we couldn't have done it without you. Thank you so much for watching this deep dive into the mysterious people who lived in the Americas thousands of years ago. Your support means everything to us, and we're so excited to have you as part of our Historical Mysteries community. If you loved this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss another adventure. We've got tons of awesome stories coming your way, and we want you right there with us, exploring the past and uncovering secrets together. Before we wrap up, let's hit those big questions one more time to keep the mystery alive. Who were these people? Their DNA tells us they weren't related to Native Americans, so they're like a ghost in history, a group we didn't even know existed until now. Where did they come from? Were they brave explorers crossing icy land bridges from Asia, paddling boats from Europe, or maybe even sailing across the vast Pacific? And the biggest question of all, why did they vanish? Did they face a changing world, fight with other groups, or get hit by a disease they couldn't beat? These questions keep us up at night, and we know they're sparking your curiosity too. Let's shine a light on one theory that really stands out: early migration. Picture this, a small group of people, maybe just a few families, crossing into the Americas way before anyone else. They might have come over a land bridge from Asia, or maybe they hugged the coast in tiny boats, landing in places like Alaska or Chile. They set up camps, hunted giant animals, and lived off the land. But something, maybe a harsh climate or not enough people to keep going, made their story fade away. This idea is so cool because it suggests humans got to the Americas earlier than we thought, rewriting the timeline of history. What do you think about that? Could they have been the first pioneers? Or do you have another idea? Drop it in the comments, we can't wait to hear your thoughts. We're so grateful to have you with us, diving into these uncharted mysteries. You guys are the heart of this channel. And every like, comment, and share helps us keep telling these stories. So, if you're as pumped about this mystery as we are, spread the word, share this video with your friends, family, or anyone who loves a good history puzzle. And don't forget to comment, what's your take on these mysterious people? Were they lost travelers, bold adventurers, or something else? Your ideas keep this story alive, and we read every single one. As we close out, let's take one last moment to imagine these people. Picture them by a fire, under a starry sky, in a world full of wild lands and big dreams. They didn't know we'd be talking about them thousands of years later, but their story is now part of ours. That's what makes history so special. It connects us to people across time, and you're helping us keep that connection strong. So, thank you again for being here, for watching, and for being part of this journey. Subscribe, hit that bell, and get ready for our next video, where we'll dive into another mystery that'll blow your mind. See you soon, explorers, keep chasing those secrets.